Unlock your mind's power. Imagine two people caught in the same sudden storm. One curses the sky, convinced the world is out to get him. The other person, drenched just the same, smiles and finds the downpour refreshing, an unexpected chance to prove his resilience. It's the same storm, the same cold rain, but two completely different experiences, all because of one thing: the mind. Our minds shape how we see the world. They can turn trials into triumphs or molehills into mountains. This is why it's often said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. Your mindset is the paintbrush of your life, coloring every moment with the shades of your thoughts. Over 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius recognized this profound truth. He wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. In other words, your internal world defines your reality. If you constantly feed your mind fear, anger, and doubt, those feelings will tint every experience. But if you feed your mind courage, patience, and wisdom, you begin to see the world through a more empowering lens." Stoicism, the ancient philosophy Marcus lived by, teaches that while we cannot control external events, we absolutely can control our own minds. This idea is liberating and powerful. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, Marcus Aurelius wrote with conviction. Think about that. We might not choose the storms we face, but we can choose what those storms mean to us. A traffic jam, a rude comment, a career setback. These can either be disastrous or insignificant depending on the mindset we bring. Let's take a modern example. Picture yourself stuck in traffic on a day when everything seems to be going wrong. Cars inch forward, horns blaring. You have two options: let frustration consume you, or take a deep breath and use this time as a break in your busy day, maybe to listen to an audiobook or simply reflect. The traffic is beyond your control, but your response is not. The Stoics would remind themselves in moments like this that it's not things that upset us, but our judgment about things. That wisdom comes from Epictetus, a Stoic teacher who knew hardship intimately. He was born a slave, yet he understood that our minds determine our experience of events. By reframing a traffic jam from infuriating delay to useful downtime, you reclaim power over the situation through your mindset. Modern psychology confirms this ancient insight. Our brains are constantly processing the world, and what we think significantly influences what we perceive. A small region at the base of the brain called the reticular activating system acts like a filter, letting in information that we deem important. If you've ever learned a new word and then suddenly noticed it everywhere, that's your mind's filter in action. When you decide something matters, consciously or subconsciously, your brain starts highlighting it in your environment. Focus on problems, and you'll see obstacles at every turn. Focus on opportunities, and suddenly opportunities spring into view. In essence, your thoughts program your perception. For instance, if you walk into a job interview utterly convinced, "I'm not going to get this job," that belief may sabotage you from the start. You might come across as defeated or nervous, fulfilling your own prophecy of failure. But if you walk in thinking, "I have something valuable to offer here," you'll carry yourself with quiet confidence and alertness. The questions haven't changed, but your mindset can lead you to answer with assurance instead of anxiety. As modern innovator Henry Ford famously said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." The thoughts you choose to believe either erect barriers or pave pathways. Even at the biological level, what you think changes who you become. Neuroscientists talk about neuroplasticity, the brain's amazing ability to rewire itself based on repeated experiences and thoughts. Every time you think a thought, you strengthen neural pathways associated with it. As the saying goes, neurons that fire together, wire together. If you constantly dwell on negative thoughts, you carve a mental rut that makes it easier to feel negativity and pessimism in the future. But the empowering flip side is also true. Nurturing positive, resilient thoughts builds new mental pathways to strength and optimism, You can literally train your brain to become calmer, more focused, and more courageous. Science has shown this rewiring in action. In one Harvard study, people who practiced mindfulness meditation for just 8 weeks actually grew the gray matter in brain regions linked to learning and memory, and shrank the area of the brain that triggers fear and stress. In other words, mental training can physically change the brain to be more balanced and less reactive. Another famous study found that athletes who vividly visualized practicing their sport improved almost as much as those who practiced physically, proving that the mind cannot tell much difference between a real experience and a deeply imagined one. By training your mind, you are training your whole being. The Stoics didn't know the term neuroplasticity, but they understood the principle. They treated the mind like a muscle that grows stronger with exercise. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, observed that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. He noticed that our minds can trap us in cycles of worry and fear that may never truly come to pass. Modern science agrees. Anxious thoughts trigger stress responses in our bodies, even when nothing external is actually wrong. But by mastering our thoughts, we break that cycle. We stop suffering in our own heads and start seeing reality more clearly, responding to it from a place of strength. Unlocking your mind's power begins with this awakening, realizing that your thoughts are not mere reactions to life. They are the authors of your life's story. Change the narrative in your head, and you change the outcome. It's a transformation that starts with a decision to take control of your inner dialogue. Instead of saying, "I can't handle this," you tell yourself, "This is tough, but I will find a way through." Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "What can I learn from this?" With each such shift, you are flexing mental muscles and reclaiming the steering wheel of your life from autopilot negativity. The mind can be your greatest enemy or your most powerful ally. The Stoics believed that tending to your mind is the single most important work you can do, because a disciplined mind can endure any storm. You've seen how changing thoughts changes your perspective, your brain, and even your outcomes. Now, let's build on that foundation. In the next section, we'll explore how to truly transform your mindset, diving deeper into Stoic techniques and psychological insights that will empower you to reshape your reality from the inside out. Transform your mindset. Transforming your mindset begins with a simple but profound realization. You often can't control what happens, but you can always control how you respond. The Stoic teacher Epictetus put it plainly, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Think about that. You can't stop a sudden rainstorm, but you can decide whether to complain or dance in the rain. You can't control another person's rude behavior, but you can control whether you react with anger or patience. This shift from blaming circumstances to mastering your response is the heart of a Stoic mindset. One of the core principles of Stoicism is often called the dichotomy of control. In life, some things are within our control and others are not. You control your own thoughts, choices, and actions. You don't control external events, the past, other people's opinions, or random outcomes. The key to peace is to focus on what you can control and let go of attachment to what you cannot. This idea is echoed in the famous Serenity Prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. The Stoics cultivated that wisdom. They trained themselves to mentally separate what's theirs, their attitude, effort, values, from everything else. By doing so, they freed themselves from a huge amount of needless worry and frustration. Consider a modern challenge: online criticism. Suppose you share something you're proud of on social media and someone leaves a harsh, unfair comment. Our instinct might be to get upset or argue back, but pause and apply the Stoic lens. Can you control that person's opinion or tone? No. What can you control? Your own reaction. You could choose to calmly reflect if there's any useful feedback in the criticism, or simply ignore it and move on. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." In practice, this means that if someone insults you, it is your choice whether to take it personally and suffer, or to shrug it off because you know your own worth. By refusing to let external negativity control your internal state, you transform a potentially hurtful situation into a victory of character. Another powerful mindset shift is learning to reframe challenges as opportunities. Life will hand us setbacks. That is certain. What's uncertain is how we interpret them. Imagine you unexpectedly lose your job. This could be seen as a catastrophe, unfair, devastating, the end of stability. And initially that reaction is natural, but once the shock settles, you have a choice. You can dwell on the loss, or you can reframe it. Perhaps this is a chance to pursue a new career path that truly excites me, or an opportunity to develop skills and come back stronger. This isn't naive optimism. It's a practical shift in focus from what you can't change, the job is gone, to something you can influence, your future efforts. The facts of the situation remain the same, but by changing the story you tell yourself about it, you change your trajectory forward. History is full of examples of reframing in action. When Thomas Edison's laboratory burned to the ground in a fiery disaster, destroying years of work, Edison didn't despair. Instead, he famously said, "Thank goodness all our mistakes were burned up. Now we can start again fresh." That is a Stoic mindset at its finest, seeing opportunity in ruin. Rather than lamenting fate, Edison accepted what happened and looked for a way to benefit from it. We might not all be brilliant inventors, but we can practice this attitude in our own lives, on any scale. Miss a promotion at work? Use it as motivation to improve or explore new avenues. Fail an exam or a project? Treat it as a learning experience that will make your eventual success even more meaningful. Every setback can be a setup for growth if you choose to see it that way. Along with reframing events, practicing gratitude is a transformative mindset habit. It's easy to fixate on what we lack or what went wrong. Our brains are actually wired with a bias toward negativity as a survival mechanism. But actively focusing on what we're thankful for shifts our mindset toward abundance and contentment. The Stoics were big on gratitude. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "Don't dwell on the things you wish you had, but remember how much you'd crave the things you have now if you didn't have them." In modern terms, count your blessings. Take a moment each day to reflect on a few things that are going right: supportive friends or family, a skill you possess, even the fact that you woke up this morning. Psychologists have found that people who regularly practice gratitude are generally happier and more resilient. When you appreciate what you have, minor annoyances lose their power, and life's goodness comes into clearer view. Let's summarize a few Stoic strategies to transform your mindset on a daily basis. Focus on what you can control. When facing any situation, quickly distinguish between what's up to you and what isn't. Devote your energy only to the factors you can influence, your effort, your attitude, and release worry about the rest. Reframe challenges as lessons. Train yourself to look at difficulties and ask, what can I learn from this? How can this make me better? By finding the silver lining or purpose in the pain, you turn obstacles into fuel for growth. Practice daily gratitude. Start or end your day by acknowledging good things in your life. This primes your mind to notice positives more than negatives, which transforms your overall perspective to be more hopeful and content. Accept and adapt. Instead of resisting things that have already happened, practice acceptance. Say to yourself, "It is what it is. Now how can I make the best of it?" By embracing reality, even if it's not what you wanted, you conserve energy for constructive action. These practices, consistent over time, will recondition your mind. You'll find yourself less rattled by surprises and more confident in your ability to handle whatever life throws at you. When you transform your mindset, you transform your world from the inside out. As Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Elevate the quality of those thoughts, and you'll elevate the quality of your life. With a fortified mindset, we can now turn to another crucial aspect of inner strength: mastering our emotions and habits. After all, it's one thing to think clearly in calm moments, and another to maintain your principles when emotions surge. In the next section, we'll discover how Stoics trained themselves to stay steady, and how modern science agrees that habits and emotional mastery go hand in hand with a resilient mindset. Master emotions and habits. Even with a strong mindset, we're all human and feel the rise of emotions. Anger, fear, stress, they can surge up unbidden and overwhelm our better judgment. Mastering your mind means learning to master these emotions before they master you. The Stoics were not emotionless robots. They felt everything we feel. The difference is, they trained themselves to respond to emotions thoughtfully rather than impulsively. As the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist Viktor Frankl famously wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." The Stoics understood this power of the pause long ago. They knew that split second of restraint, that space, can make the difference between a wise response and a rash reaction. "No man is free who is not master of himself," declared Epictetus. To the Stoics, slavery to one's passions was just as destructive as any physical chains. Suppose someone cuts you off in traffic or a co-worker takes credit for your work. In a flash, anger flares up. Your pulse races, your vision narrows, the body's fight-or-flight response kicking in. In that heated moment, you might be tempted to honk aggressively, shout, or send an angry email. But ask yourself, who is really in control at that moment? You or your anger? Stoics like Seneca warned that giving free rein to anger is a kind of madness that hurts you most of all. "The greatest remedy for anger is delay," Seneca wrote. In practice, this means exactly what modern anger management teaches. When you feel rage rising, don't act immediately. Take a step back, breathe. Give yourself that space Frankl spoke of. By delaying your reaction, you prevent a fleeting emotion from causing lasting damage. We often find that our impulsive, angry actions only make things worse. Contrast that with a Stoic approach. When you get an infuriating email at work, rather than responding in the heat of the moment, you step away for a few minutes, or a few hours if possible. You cool down and consider a calm, constructive response, or maybe realize no response is needed at all. When you finally address the issue, you do so from a place of composure and principle, not anger. The result? You maintain your integrity and often diffuse the situation, whereas an uncontrolled outburst would have fanned the flames. This is how mastering your temper protects your peace and reputation. The same principle applies to fear and anxiety. Everyone experiences fear, whether it's nervousness before public speaking, anxiety about an uncertain future, or panic when facing a crisis. The Stoics had techniques for this too. One method was premeditation of adversity, premeditatio malorum, calmly imagining possible problems ahead of time, not to brood or invite them, but to remind yourself you can handle them. If you have a big presentation tomorrow, a Stoic might advise, visualize it going wrong, the projector fails, a tough question catches you off guard. See yourself navigating it and realize even in the worst case, you would survive and find a way. By doing this, you strip away the exaggerated fear. What's left is a more cool-headed readiness. As Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. By facing your fears in your mind, you suffer less if they ever materialize. Modern psychology echoes these ideas. Therapists often use visualization and controlled exposure to help people overcome phobias, essentially training the brain not to panic, much as the Stoics did through mental rehearsal. And something as simple as controlled breathing, which soldiers and athletes use under pressure, can powerfully dampen the body's fear response. Next time you feel anxiety mounting, your heart pounding before an interview or exam, try this Stoic trick. Pause, inhale deeply for a count of 4, exhale for 4, and repeat. By focusing on your breath and the present moment, you anchor yourself. The rush of adrenaline settles, and your thinking brain regains control from the emotional brain. In regaining that control, you prove to yourself that fear is a feeling, not a master. While mastering emotions in the moment is vital, the Stoics knew that true mental strength is built over time through habits. Just as an athlete trains daily for a competition, a philosopher trains the mind daily for life. Habits are the invisible architecture of our lives. They shape us bit by bit, day by day. The Stoics cultivated habits to reinforce their principles. Marcus Aurelius, for example, had a habit of journaling each morning to prepare his mind for the day. He would start by reminding himself of the virtues he wanted to uphold and the annoyances he might encounter. This practice armed him with patience and humility before he even stepped into the chaos of the Roman world. Likewise, each evening he would reflect on what went well and where he fell short, so he could improve tomorrow. We can do the same. A simple habit of writing down your thoughts and reactions each day can build incredible self-awareness over time. You start to notice patterns. Maybe you see that every Tuesday meeting you get irritable, or that you feel anxious whenever you skip your workout. Awareness is the first step to change. Another Stoic habit is voluntary hardship, deliberately doing something uncomfortable to strengthen your will. Seneca would periodically practice living on very little food and wearing plain clothes, asking himself, "Is this what I feared?" By proving to himself that he could be content with less, he lessened his fear of poverty or loss. Today, we might take a cold shower or deliberately skip a meal. These small challenges, done intentionally, build our tolerance for discomfort. Then, when life throws a curveball, we're not so easily thrown off balance because we've been training for it. It's like a vaccine for adversity, a little dose of difficulty to build immunity against major hardships. Building positive habits is equally important. It's not just about hardening yourself. It's also about shaping yourself into who you want to become. Want to be more calm and centered? Make meditation or a morning walk a daily habit to center your mind. Want to be more knowledgeable and wise? Get in the habit of reading uplifting philosophy or psychology each day, even for 10 minutes, to feed your mind good material. Over time, these routines become as automatic as brushing your teeth, and they sculpt your character. When you repeatedly choose patience or courage in small moments, over time, those responses become second nature. Your habits gradually shape your character. Let's not forget our biology. Consistent habits actually rewire your brain over time. Every time you resist an impulse or do something hard when you don't feel like it, you make it a bit easier to do next time. What begins as deliberate effort gradually becomes your new normal. In this way, self-mastery builds on itself. To master your emotions, train yourself in peace so you'll be prepared in war, so to speak. Make self-reflection, mindfulness, and challenge a routine part of life. Then, when a crisis or temptation strikes, your mind will know what to do out of habit. You'll default to calm breathing, to analyzing your thoughts rationally, to remembering what is in your control. This kind of emotional resilience and discipline doesn't appear overnight. It's earned through daily practice. By mastering your emotions and building strong habits, you are fortifying your inner citadel, a fortress of mind that external troubles cannot easily breach. You'll find that anger subsides faster, fears shrink, and unhealthy impulses have less sway over you. This is freedom. As Epictetus said, the person who masters themselves is truly free. With mind and emotions under steady guidance, you are ready to face greater challenges. In our final section, we'll see how Stoic wisdom helps us embrace adversity itself, turning life's trials into fuel for growth and unshakable strength. Embrace adversity and build resilience. Life will inevitably knock you down. It might be a devastating loss, a betrayal, a failure that shatters your confidence, or a sudden change you never asked for. In those moments, it can feel like the world is ending. But often, when we look back on our toughest trials, we realize something incredible. Those hardships forged us into stronger, wiser people. The Stoics understood this paradox of adversity well. They knew that the very things that threaten to break us can end up making us. As Marcus Aurelius observed, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In plain language, the obstacle is the path. At first, this idea might seem confusing. How can an obstacle be the way forward? Think of it like training your body. If you want to build muscle, you lift heavier weights over time. The resistance actually causes you to grow. Likewise, life's obstacles, the weighty challenges, force us to develop strength and skills we wouldn't otherwise have. Each time you confront a challenge and persist, you gain a little more resilience. That difficult project at work that pushed you to your limits, it made you more capable. The heartbreak that tested your spirit, it may have taught you compassion or independence. In hindsight, you see that adversity was a teacher. Marcus's point is that we shouldn't merely endure obstacles, we should actively turn them to our advantage. The Stoic mindset asks, how can I use this, rather than why me? Epictetus put it this way, difficulties are things that show what men are. A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor, as the saying goes. It's in storms that we prove our mettle and discover the depth of our character. Epictetus himself lived through extreme hardship. Born into slavery, physically disabled, he had every reason to despair. Yet, instead of breaking him, those difficulties became the forge for an unbreakable spirit. He learned that while fate could take away his freedom or health, it could not touch his will or his attitude unless he surrendered them. This understanding became the bedrock of his teachings, that we can bear and even transcend any hardship by focusing on how we meet it. He often likened life to a wrestling match. The gods or nature might throw a strong opponent, a challenge at you, not to crush you but to train you. Each struggle is an opportunity to toughen your resolve and refine your virtue. We see this Stoic principle echoed in modern times. Admiral James Stockdale, captured during the Vietnam War, spent 7 grueling years as a prisoner of war under horrific conditions. He was beaten and isolated, not knowing if he'd ever see his family again. What kept him going was Stoicism. He had studied Epictetus, and in captivity, he applied those lessons word for word. Stockdale never lost faith that he would prevail and that he could turn this ordeal into a defining event in his life. And he did. He emerged, not defeated, but as a hero, crediting Stoic wisdom for his survival. His story shows that Stoicism isn't just armchair philosophy, it's battle-tested. If these ideas can sustain someone through a POW camp, imagine what they can do for us in facing everyday adversities, like a job loss, a health scare, or a personal setback. So how can we embrace adversity in practice? First, by changing how we label challenges. Instead of thinking I'm unlucky or this is unfair, a Stoic mind says, this is training. Just that word, training, reframes the situation. A heavy weight at the gym isn't unfair. It's an opportunity to get stronger. Likewise, a personal trial is training for your mind and character. When difficulties arise, remind yourself, this is making me stronger. It's not a platitude, it's a choice to find empowerment in the pain. Seneca advised, to bear trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength and burden. Panicking or despairing only adds weight to the burden. If you meet trials calmly, you take away their bite. Another aspect of embracing adversity is finding the meaning and lesson within the pain. Often, our greatest growth springs from our hardest experiences. Maybe losing a job led you to start your own business, or a heartbreak taught you to love yourself, or a failure in school pushed you toward a different, better-suited career. There's a concept in psychology called post-traumatic growth, the positive change that can emerge from struggling with major adversity. The Stoics were early proponents of this idea, that what doesn't kill you can indeed make you stronger, if you approach it with wisdom. They practiced finding the good in everything. If fate handed Marcus Aurelius a war, he used it to practice leadership and patience. If Seneca was exiled, he used the solitude to write and reflect. We can do the same. When you're in the middle of a storm, it's hard to see any silver lining. But Stoicism asks you to trust that with the right mindset, you will make it useful someday. You can ask yourself, even in the pain, how might I use this experience? What is it teaching me that I couldn't learn otherwise? Finally, embracing adversity means never giving up on yourself. It's about cultivating that stoic resilience that says, no matter what happens, I have the inner strength to endure and adapt. This isn't blind optimism. It's a deep confidence in your own perseverance. It's looking in the mirror and affirming, I will not let this defeat me. I will rise from this. Remember that every hero's story involves overcoming obstacles. The obstacle is what gives the journey its meaning, and you are the hero of your own life. The Stoics would say that everything you need to prevail is already within you. Your reasoning mind, your values, your will. When you lean on those, no external hardship can break you. As we conclude this journey through Stoic wisdom, take a moment to let it sink in. Your mind is your most powerful asset. Guard it and train it. The thoughts you choose will shape your reality. By cultivating a strong mindset, mastering your emotions, and welcoming challenges as growth opportunities, you become virtually unstoppable in life. This transformation won't happen overnight. It's a lifelong path. But every step you take in training your mind is a step toward freedom and strength. Now it's time to take action. The ancient philosophers can guide you, but only you can do the work. Start today. Apply one Stoic principle to your day, even if it's as simple as pausing to reframe a frustration or expressing gratitude instead of complaint. As Marcus Aurelius urged, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Don't just talk or think about improvement. Live it. If you found value in this journey of the mind, consider subscribing to Be Stoic. Join our community of modern Stoics, people committed to growth, resilience, and wisdom. We have plenty more videos exploring ancient insights for today's challenges, so be sure to check those out. Thank you for watching, and remember, your mind is powerful, and you have the choice to shape your destiny. Stay strong, stay stoic, and until next time, forge ahead on the path of wisdom.